All right, gang, welcome back to the podcast. I'm really excited for this guest. We have Abby Bruner on today, and I think it was, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, Abby and me did a workout together, like the 8:30 class, and she was kicking butt. She was doing a bunch of bar muscle ups and stuff. I remember that workout, and it was really cool. You came up to me, and you just kind of thanked me for... I haven't really even got to have maybe even like a full conversation with you, but just for the gym, it was like really a humbling kind of thing for you to say to me, and we're just working out together. And so then we started to kind of chat, and I got a little bit of your story, and I was like, wow, I would really love to have you on the podcast and just talk, because we've actually had, I think, quite a few people who have a similar story to you. And it really, why I like to put these out is like, everyone will see like a certain person who it kind of resonates with them. Like if it's someone maybe their age or maybe going for a similar goal or something they want to do, if they can hear their story, it can kind of light a fire or kind of provide a path. And, that's why I really wanted to have you on. And I think what's always the easiest way to start this is just like, maybe give us a little background of just like, where you grew up, maybe sports, things you did, and kind of start to give yourself a little track up to now.
Yeah. So I grew up in Jacksonville, Florida. I lived in Florida all the way up till last July. So July 2023 is when I moved here.
Very cool.
And I was a competitive gymnast growing up. So I did that all the way through high school. I wasn't good enough to do like it in college. So I ended up doing club in college. And then throughout my time in college, I did a lot of group fitness. I started lifting my senior year, but really up until when I came here, most of my athletic experience is like only gymnastics. I was like so specialized in gymnastics that I really didn't have any weightlifting experience. Like when I came here, I'd never done a deadlift, never done a front squat, definitely never done a clean.
Yep.
So I was very focused on gymnastics for most of my life.
So what brought you to Columbus from Jackson?
Yeah, so I went to Florida State for college, and then I came here for work mostly, but I'm also in grad school.
Cool.
So I work at Ohio State in campus recreation. So I run like the back end of all the intramural sports and the club sports. Like,
oh, cool.
Yeah, so I do that 30 hours a week, and then I'm in grad school for sport management.
And you work here a little bit too.
Yeah,
yep.
And I work the desk.
Yep. Yeah. Very cool. So
what do you want to do with that, the sports management?
Yeah, so I want to go into campus recreation as a career.
Oh, cool.
So right now it's my last semester of grad school, so I'm in the interview process with like other universities.
That's so neat. I've never met anyone in that profession. That's really cool.
Yeah, people don't really know that it exists.
Yeah.
That there's like a whole group of like professional staff members that have to like supervise all the students.
It makes sense, and especially at like such larger universities like Ohio State. I mean, it's really... Yeah, that's
intramural
really cool.
Sports are huge at Ohio State. I mean,
I think it's a really, I could see it really being a huge part of like mental wellness too, with that community and everything it can provide there.
Are club sports included in that?
Yeah, okay. So I work with both IMs and clubs.
Okay. I was I was like an officer and president of our boxing club all through college. So like I was really into all of the like club and intramural type stuff too. So that got me through college, to tell you the truth. Like I don't know if I would have graduated without that stuff. It was just, it gave me something to fill up my time that was like a focused thing and positive and fun, and that wasn't like, I had a lot of friends, like their hobby was just, like drinking and smoking and stuff. So I was like, this kind of got me out of doing that, at least 4 or 5 nights a week. That's very cool. So gymnastics was your sport. Did you do anything else growing up? Like that was basically, you stayed in that, you were focused on that. And
yeah, I had to quit I did soccer like as a child, but I had to quit that by the time I was like 10, because at 10 years old, we were already at like 4 days a week. So I kind of just committed to gymnastics only.
Did you feel like that was a healthy experience for you, the gymnastics?
Overall, probably not. Like I was doing it during the time that like all of the scandals were coming out with USA Gymnastics, and like there was a lot of awareness about like coaching and how that may not always be healthy. So at the time I was like so dedicated to it and so into it that like I couldn't see outside of that bubble. But after like going to college and reflecting, like I wish I had more balance, but that just wasn't who I was as a person at the time. So like it happened. Now I know better.
Yeah.
It was like a learning experience in that way.
And can you expand on that a little bit? Like, what did you feel was unhealthy?
I was just so like, that was the only thing I thought about all day, every day. And I would get through school to go to gymnastics. And like, I just found a lot of my self-worth from my performance. And I remember, this will go into what we'll talk about later, but like starting to struggle with my mental health as young as like 12 or 13. And I would be crying every practice. And like, it was not a good environment for me with like, just it being so serious and it feeling like the only thing that defined me.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think other women had similar experiences?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of my teammates about it. I was always the oldest one in the gym from when I was like 14 to 18. So I feel like I was always kind of the advocate of like, this needs to be better. Like, we need to be treated better. This is not okay. And I was kind of the leader of that charge. But I think a lot of us have had a similar experience growing up of trying to like undo that piece of our brain and like the need for perfection and like just being really hard on ourselves and giving myself no grace. And we've all had to kind of like learn how to undo that ourselves.
So you feel like gymnastics kind of puts you in that situation rather than like your home environment?
Yeah, I think anytime people struggle with mental health, like it's no one thing. Yeah. I don't know if this is scientific, but I've heard that like some people just have that piece of their brain and like it can be turned on by different things. So I think the stress of gymnastics was definitely one of those things, but I think it's always like multiple factors that play into it.
Yeah. Well, and I know why you came on and you have a message, so, you know.
Well, I was just going to say, like, something about the nature of gymnastics, from what I've just seen, I've watched, like, some documentaries and things like that. I wonder why, more so than maybe some other sports, like, especially past a certain age, it's so serious and it's so focused and that really the carrot at the end of the stick, I guess at the highest end is maybe a college scholarship. Yeah. There's not like millions of dollars at stake or anything here. No. I mean, it's just.
Maybe like with endorsements, if you get to like the Olympic level.
There's not really a level where it's really financially too good.
Right, but I mean like endorsements.
Yeah, like anything.
Ads,
like if you're the best surfer in the world, you know, you're going to be rich. But
there's just so much pressure.
It's not a professional gymnastics league or anything.
Not really, no.
There's a small amount, that are going to get endorsements and their life will be set. But
I've always just wondered why it's like that sport is so maniacal in like the training and how serious they take it when it's kind of like a fringe sport. It's got a big community. And anywhere you go, like if you have a good gymnastics, it's packed. Yeah. But it's kind of always under the radar of like anyone who's not in that world.
What about like the dance moms? What about the dance? I mean, I know that's kind of funny because it's such like gymnastics is so hardcore and dance isn't really thought of that. Like, but I'm telling you, moms go insane for dance. And I have some dance moms I work with. And, no one wants to pretend like they're a psychopath when they're meeting with me with their kids. But you can see it a little bit. Like it can have the same sort of feel. And there's also a big pressure to look a certain way, right? Yeah. Dancers, gymnasts, like you've got a certain body type. And, Maddie was a gymnast. And then she's like, I kind of got too big. And they'll be like pretty, from what I've heard, there's just the environment where you're pretty blunt about it. So, there's probably a lot of, it's like probably one of the only sports that doesn't have an advantage to be like big and strong. You want to be little and strong.
Yeah.
And like the objective of the sport is perfection, right?
Yeah.
You're not like you're competing against other people, but like the idea is I'm being judged, I'm being scored on how perfect I am.
And it's subjective, right? To some degree. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like bodybuilding a little bit. And I've never seen anyone walk away from bodybuilding without a huge,
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you have
Yeah.
like yes, you want like your shoulders broader than your waist, but literally someone's judging your body and it's subjective. And you have certain things you need to do and to score well, but then it's almost like how beautiful someone sees your performance. And
Right.
that's probably a lot of like your self-worth. You're like, you're expressing yourself out there. So, but do you find like a lot of the parents would drive that competition?
Sometimes my parents were never like that. Like, I feel like I always had the autonomy to choose to be done. I didn't give myself that option, but my parents were very like chill about it. My mom was a gymnast growing up, but she quit in like middle school. So she never really felt that invested, and she kind of like took my lead. And because I was so serious about it, she cared. But my mom was not the crazy like gymnastics mom.
Yeah.
But I definitely saw some of that for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's really, it's just interesting. I've always kind of like, I always wonder, like some sports, it's usually pretty casual. And then some, like, if you're just even doing it past, I don't know, 10, it's all of a sudden, you know, super serious. So, okay, so you went to Florida State.
Yes.
And then you came to Ohio State. And then, so we were having a little conversation before you came here, and you've been here for a little over a year. And if you could kind of just like walk us up maybe to like what happened before you came here, and then talk about how CrossFit, maybe just this gym and everything is kind of, parted the storm clouds a little bit for you and helped you through that. That'd be amazing if you could just kind of speak on that for a little bit.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, I have struggled with my mental health in some capacity, like since I was an early teenager. So I started going to therapy when I was like 16, got on depression medication at 17. Like, this has been a long-standing struggle for me, but I feel like I got some sort of grasp on it, and I moved here, and I was like, okay, like, you're going to be good. We can do it. And since I got here last July, it kind of became a perfect storm of a lot of different factors that led to what happened. So I came here. I was so far away from home. I was in a living situation that I didn't want to be in with roommates that I didn't want to be living with. I felt really overworked at work. So things just started evolving. I started to just be more and more anxious, depressed. I would be talking to my bosses about it every day. And eventually my meds started switching all the time because they were trying to stabilize me. So it was kind of like a perfect storm of like everything coming together. And eventually the people around me kind of decided that I needed a higher level of care because like I just did not see a way out at all. Like the thought of having to form the coping skills to get me out of this situation seemed too hard to do. So I got to a pretty hopeless point, and they brought me to the hospital one day. I ended up not staying that time, and my mom got on a plane. She came here. This was in December of last year. So I ended up being in a partial hospitalization program at first. So I would go there Monday through Friday, 9 to 3. It's basically group therapy every day, which I can explain more of like what that entailed if you want. But I did that for about 6 weeks of like 20 plus hours of therapy a week just to get me out of there, like learning coping skills. We did processing groups of like what's going on in your life at that time. We learned like cognitive skills, behavioral skills, did a lot of art. Like, it was one of those things where I was there and I was like, how did my life get to this point where I'm sitting here right now? But it ended up being the best experience, like changed my life. I'm a different person now because of that. And we can go into that experience more if you want. But after that, I was trying to go back to work. I basically had a complete relapse, and I ended up being inpatient for like about a week. So that's the typical, like, you go to the hospital, they take all your stuff, like you're there with nothing to do, therapy, meds.
So what was the relapse breaking point? Where did you feel suicidal, or what?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah, so I've struggled with suicidal thoughts throughout this whole time. That's what ended me up there. And then with the relapse, it was I was trying to transition out of the partial program and go back to work at the same time that my therapist there left the practice, at the same time that like my classes were supposed to start. It was just like I wasn't ready to transition back into life yet.
You just got hit in the face with everything all at once. Like, okay, now you're back.
Yeah, like you're in that perfect environment from 9 to 3 every day, but like the world is still the same. So when you just are like pushed out into the world, it's kind of shocking.
Yep.
So I think I just wasn't ready to handle that, and that's what did it. But yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like you you being so competitive in gymnastics in some ways halted like a lot of your maybe like social growth, mental growth in some ways, where like you were able to handle so much physically and all this pressure, but then you weren't given like other life skills because you probably didn't spend a lot of time with friends. You probably didn't like go out and have a ton of pizza and go to the movies. And, you know, in some ways that it was probably just like your world turned upside down when you were off on your own too.
Yeah, for sure. And especially during that time, like I was so not here. Like I was in such a daze that I would be talking to the people around me and like I didn't even know what I liked to do. Like I had no hobbies. I didn't know anything. I had no friends. I lost basically all my friends during this time. And I remember making a list with like my boss of what are things you like? Like, let's start there. And I'm like,
you just didn't have time to develop that or think about that because you were like, so like I'm an athlete, and with taking that away.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what I like. Like, I don't know who I am outside of just achieve.
Yeah.
And that's where the idea of CrossFit actually came up. That was something that he suggested because the only thing I knew about CrossFit was everyone is obsessed with it and everyone is a community. So that idea was like floating in my head of like, how can I figure out what I like to do? But yeah, I didn't know anything. And when I went to that program, like that was the first time in my whole life that I had ever like stopped. And like I had no work. I took the semester off school. The only thing I had to focus on was myself. And like I could just feel my brain just like get quiet for the first time ever. So I was just going and going until I like literally couldn't go anymore.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of adults my age, and 44 today, that I feel like still don't know themselves because they never, took time to do that. So that's you're a brave person.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel very blessed to have that level of help at my age because I'm 24 now. I was only 23 when I was in the program. I was the youngest one there. And at first I was discouraged by that, but I was like, how lucky am I to have this experience now? And instead of living like this for 20 more years before I get help.
Right.
Yeah.
Because then you might be meeting your partner, who you want to spend the rest of your life with, not knowing yourself. Then that's probably not going to go well. No. And then, you're waking up 10, 15 years later and that's, that's what a lot of people do. So what do you really feel like, what are some of the biggest things you learned about yourself in that program?
I learned a lot about self-compassion. Tomorrow actually is the 1-year anniversary of when I went inpatient. So I've been trying to like look at journals from that time and like honor the experience. So I was reading one where I saw myself as something that needed to be fixed. And when I fix this, it would be fine. And a lot of what I learned was like, there is no fix. And like, this may be your life for a long time, but like, you need to learn to find joy despite that. And just give yourself grace.
Do you mean like, sorry, I just want to understand. Do you mean like situational? Like, so say I don't like my job right now or my roommates or like, so instead of trying to fix those situations, find joy in.
Yeah, it was more of like, I thought that my depression could just be fixed.
Okay, gotcha.
And like, once I got this under control, everything would be fine. But that's not how it works. Like, for the rest of my life in some capacity, I'm going to deal with this. And just learning to live with it and manage it instead of just assuming that like one day I'm going to fix it and it's all going to be better.
Brandon and I were just having this conversation last night about some things that we struggle with. And it's not necessarily like quote unquote depression, but I've struggled with body image disorderly, whatever. I'm not really ever like gone to like therapy just for that, but I know that's what I always end up talking about when I'm there. But since I was like 15 or 16, and then I'm 44 today, and I'm like, I'm upset because I'm so tired of having these thoughts, but I don't think it's ever going to go away. And we are just having this where I feel like each one of us battles something, you know. It might not be straight depression, but these thoughts, these cyclical thoughts, these patterns and behaviors that I think we're just meant to kind of live with, but the voice gets quieter. And it's hard to know, like, man, it's been 30 years, right? But I think that's just always like when you can make peace with that and just be like, hey, I hear you, voice. You're like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Fuck off with that. Not today. Like, we're not going there today. And that's a gift to learn that young, you know.
Yeah, it's like,
go ahead.
I would say, like, it never really goes away. I mean, you can change a little bit, but it's like, you're always like, it's just learning to cope with it and manage it a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, you can dampen the voice and, you know, have more self-compassion, but it's a real kind of like bummer at first and realize this will be around for the rest of my life. I'm just going to have to find ways to, like I said, manage it, but also like, in some ways it can be a gift, in other ways too. You know what I mean? You don't have, it doesn't all have to be dark. There's some positives to the kind of, I'll say more destructive, but more like that kind of mindset. Sometimes the things you struggle with can be a superpower in some other ways and situations. So just kind of learning that, like, that's who you are, and just knowing that, like, it's part of you that's going to be with you forever, and just kind of learning how to manage it and find the light in it at times too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's just, I think it's a hard pill to swallow to think like there's something that I struggle with that can never be fixed, but it's in my mind.
Yeah.
It's such a hard, but I truly sit, you know, that's all I do all day is talk to people about what's holding them back about being healthy. And sometimes it's this sort of problem that I have. It's not always like, oh, I'm not motivated. I'm like, hey, you know, you're not living life enough. You're not enjoying life enough because you're so regimented. You're holding yourself, and then it holds your health back. It holds your happiness back. But I've done so many different practices with meditation and you know, rewiring of my brain, and I think I come back to you know, I've tried psychedelics and I think it does help to rewire, but the truth is those patterns are wired in when you're so young. I don't think it's ever going to be totally rerouted. It's like a huge 4-lane highway and you're looking at like small, like off-road, like gravel roads that you're trying to create. And like, no, let's go down the gravel road. It's better. And you've got this huge 4-lane highway and you're like, but this one is so much faster.
It's crazy here. Let's do it.
Let's hop back on.
It's fun sometimes.
We're getting on 270.
I think what you can consider a bit of a gift, though, is it being brought to a head a little earlier in your life. To your point that you said, you know, you were the youngest person in there, and most of the people were like 20 years older. That midlife is kind of like the age we're in, and where we see it, you know, Kate's working with people, and then our friends and people that we came up with. When you get sick
and like really tired of yourself.
Yes. And so we see it amongst our friends and
so
people
much.
A lot. And that now you're at an age where like your life can be a little more adaptable and changeable, where now they're like, you know, they've got families and things are like rooted hard, and they have to blow things up because things are off the rails.
And to take that time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and again, I really go back to like, I want to acknowledge how courageous you are, because I think we're all given around your age, around that time, warning signs and like, hey, this isn't right. And you know what I did at your age? Fitness shows. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to have an eating disorder. Well, my friends are doing a fitness show. You know what? What they're doing is healthier than what I'm doing, so I'm going to sign up for these. And I didn't give a shit about it. I just wanted to get out of my bag. What I could have done is taken time and really worked through it, but I just wasn't ready.
Yeah, and you don't know that at that age. Like,
I was just so unaware.
I didn't purposely like stop my life, and I'm like, okay, let's fix this now. Like, my body like just stopped.
To.
Like,
I
didn't have a choice. So yeah, I think at that age, like, you just don't know what you don't know.
Oh yeah, and I didn't know shit.
Yeah, I still probably don't know anything, but
too.
I know more than I did a year ago.
I think it can be a common time though, like, you know, if that young adulthood, like after college or after high school, like you're out in the real world and you're having to make decisions and choices on your own that are going to affect the rest of your life. And sometimes you just feel like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like for me personally, like around your age is when the shit hit the fan for me a long time ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's been a long road since then, but like it was a kind of around that time where this is a new stage of life. Like you're spreading your wings and you're going and you're like, I've got to do, you know, you just put a lot of pressure on yourself to like do something and whatever. I get it. Yeah. So it's I feel like that time period is tough for a lot of people in the early 20s trying to figure things out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what's great about like, you know, the United States, and we can all make something of ourselves, but also it's this double-edged sword that there is so much pressure, and it only like, I think keeps amplifying, you know, with social media or whatever, just like this, but now you can be this real estate mogul and then make this amount of money or that. What are you doing with your money? You take out your mortgage and you put it here and you do all the, like, let's never relax. Let's never fucking relax.
Yeah.
Like, you just always need to be fucking with yourself somehow. And have you got your hormones checked yet? Well, you need to do that every 3 months. Yeah. And you feel good, you're not good. You don't know you're not good. You're messed up.
So I want to kind of digress and talk, you know, while we have time a little bit about, so kind of coming through this and then
bring it down 5 notches.
Well, yeah, no, but bringing it back to CrossFit and what that's kind of done for you. So you talked, like your counselor kind of talked to you about, okay, CrossFit might fill a couple of these gaps that we're talking about, and just kind of lead us through that experience.
Yeah, so I ended up signing up for CrossFit right before I went inpatient. So I think I did like 1 or 2 elements before, and then I ended up in the hospital. And I remember I got home that day, and I was just sitting on the floor in my apartment, and my stuff was in like paper bags, and I'm like, what do I do now? Like, I just got out of the hospital. Life feels like new again. I'm sitting here, I'm like, where do I go from here? I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go to the gym tonight. Like, that just seemed like the next right thing to do. Yep. So I went and did my other elements that same day. The workout felt terrible. I hadn't exercised in like 2 months. And then I've just come here like basically every day since then for a whole year. And I feel like it's just healed with me. Like, the road back from there was so long. Like, I'm still on the road back. Like, so many ups and downs. But no matter how I feel, I just show up here, and sometimes I talk about it. Most of the time I don't. And I can just have, like, 1 hour of not thinking about it. And I don't know. As my mindset has changed in my life, like, my mindset towards CrossFit has also changed. Like, I feel like one time I was frustrated with you, like not with you, but
we were talking.
Yeah, we were talking because I was so frustrated about a rope climb workout and how I didn't do as well as I thought. And like, I just don't have that anymore. Now I'm like so focused on the process, and through starting L2, I think it makes me more aware that like this is a long journey. And I think I've taken that mindset like into my life too. Like, doing 1 extra ring muscle up today is enough. And like, taking this small step forward in my life is enough, even though it's not all fixed right now. It's not all perfect, but like, I'm a little better than yesterday.
I think that was like a Friday night or something. We were working together. I just remember being like, man, I see myself in this girl. Like, she's so hard on herself. I was like, just little by little. You don't have to be better everything in a day. Like, you're just be consistent, and things will happen, and give yourself some grace, and just keep working hard. Don't put so much pressure on yourself.
You were like,
even though we all do.
You were like, you're just working out. I'm like, okay, I know, like, but like, I'm not.
I go, have fun. It's just exercise. It's just exercise. Like, it's supposed to be fun and healthy. Like,
But you'll have to ask Dave about a competition we did together. Though
I'm not. I am not. Like
we're never gonna live this lifetime.
We both came in second, and I was so happy, and he was so pissed.
Yeah, I can give great advice. It doesn't mean like I'm always gonna listen to my own.
And I was
advice.
like, I'm just a really good loser, but I am a really good loser.
Do you find on a micro level that it helps change the channel too? Like if you're having, if you're not feeling right, or maybe even for me, like my body and stuff will feel off kilter, and then I'll do my workout, and then I'm like, oh man, I'm riding high for 3 or 4 hours afterwards. Yeah. And so like if I'm pulsing that, 4 or 5 days a week out of a class into my weekly schedule, I'm like, all of a sudden I've got 20 hours a week where I feel better. And that's just my personal experience. I don't know if you've kind of got that or.
Yeah, that's true. It gives me something to look forward to because I come at night. So it gives me something to look forward to all day. And then after, like, things just feel a little more manageable after you work out, like every time.
It just helps quiet your mind. Yeah. And we don't realize how strong our mind and our thoughts are. I think it's hard to even become aware of our thoughts. Like right before the workout today, I thought I was going to puke, and I just had this intuition to not talk about it. I'm like, you're not getting sick. You're not talking about it. I was in the middle of the workout, and I'm like, wait, I don't feel sick at all. Like truly, those were just my thoughts. Those were just things coming up. And I'm sure, your birthday, that's that time of year that always just makes you like go within and think. And whether I realize it or not, those thoughts were making me feel a certain way, and it's wild. Do you have any sort of desire to help other maybe gymnasts that are going through the same sort of thing? Has that been something that's crossed your mind as like a career or?
Yeah, I don't think I would do it as a career, especially right now. Like at this point, I'm only a year out from like all of that. And I just don't like a year out when this experience is so like life before, life after.
Right,
like
right.
Maybe one day, but right now I'm just trying to focus on myself, and I don't want to, like, I am very passionate about mental health awareness, and I don't want to make that something that's like an obligation.
Right.
Like same thing with fitness. Like I thought about being like a fitness instructor or a CrossFit coach, and like I just don't want to turn my hobby and my passion into work.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. I mean, it's mine, but I feel that way about yoga. I really love yoga, and I'm like, I just need to save that nugget for something I enjoy. But and the only reason why I'm also asking you that, I feel like it's really helped me with the body stuff to help other people, and you might come to that at some point in life where you're like, this will be healing for me, because you can speak to it so clearly that. I think if you've been there yourself, it really helps to help other people where, if you haven't gone there and been in that same situation, it's hard to help.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll do something one day that's like a side, like passion project type of thing. But I like to be very open about my mental health. I think a lot of people are scared to talk about it. And like through like struggling with a lot of my friends through this experience, like, it's just not talked about enough, and a lot of people are scared of it and don't know what to do when someone like is open about those things. So I just like to talk about it. One, it makes me feel better. It makes me less scared of it. And then also like helping other people like be more knowledgeable.
Yeah, it's very cathartic.
I think everyone deals with it on a spectrum no matter what. I mean, so it's something, especially the longer I've been around, I don't know anyone who's like they're squared away.
No one's got it all figured
out. No, not at all.
Yeah.
So it's just a spectrum for everyone.
I went in on my therapist once and asked him these questions. Brianna was there. I was like, what about you, dude? You do this? Huh? And he was really cool. He's like, I'll be honest with you. He went to like a silent retreat. He had gone to one a couple months before that. He said he packed up his bags and left after 3 days. He was having such insane thoughts. He's like, I thought I was losing my mind. And it was really cool that he was vulnerable with me in that moment, but he was going in on me, and I was like, no, I wasn't ready to hear, obviously, what he was saying. He was right. I need to write this guy a letter. I really do. Handwritten. But yeah, everyone does. It's just how the people that close that door the most and lock it are the ones that struggle the most. Mm-hmm. It's like the people that are the most smiley are probably the most angry.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's cool that you came on, and as soon as you kind of shared that, I was like, hey, would you be willing to come on the podcast and just mention this? Because so many people deal with these issues or something very similar, and to just hear that someone that they might see who they have no idea, and who's, you know, you're in here thriving, you're kicking ass in the gym, and like seemingly like super well adjusted and doing great.
She was crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, now everyone that listens to this is gonna know.
I'm joking. I'm sure.
But no, it's good to hear. Like, I think I'll look at people, or we all do it, and we're like, so I have a good example with me. I have some friends and stuff. I've had like some like chronic pain issues, and they're like, they'll say, must be nice to just be so healthy like you are all the time and be able to just run and do CrossFit every day and this and that. And I'm like, I've been in agony for or something. And, generally I feel okay right now, but like I've dealt with some issues, and I'm like, you have no idea like how much I was struggling at like this time where you thought I was like thriving. And so when people can hear that other people have problems, because what we look at on social media is like a highlight reel of everyone like kicking ass and like showing their best version of themselves. And we're like, we don't think anyone else has problems. And when you can actually get into it and hear that other people do, and that they're working through it, it can help maybe someone take a step to maybe get some help, or understand that they're not the only person on the planet dealing with this stuff. So yeah, I really appreciate that you just like put yourself out there like that. It's really brave for you to do that. It's really hard. I don't do it enough with myself. I'll guard up a little bit, and I'm still working on that. Yeah. You guys have anything else today?
That's a perfect place to end.
Yeah, Abby, thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, ready to record now? That was just a rehearsal.